Hey guys, so welcome back to another video. So today we are continuing the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, chapter 4, the Boscombe Valley Mystery, part 3. So this is the part 3 guys. So in part 2 we stopped till here. So yeah, let's continue. The doctor said that his nervous system was shattered. Mr. McCarthy had been the only person alive from his good old days in Victoria, when he worked in the gold mines where Mr. Turner made all his wealth. She left thanking Sherlock. Sherlock changed his mind and he decided to use the carriage after all. He asked Lestrade, to take him to James McCarthy, as he wanted to see if the young man knows anything of importance. I decided not to go with them and took a walk through the streets of the little town. Upon returning to the hotel, I started reading a novel. The plot of the novel was so simple that my mind wandered to the mystery we had at hand. I wondered what could have happened to the man in the little time that the sun had turned. Maybe the nature of injuries could shed some light in the method of murder. I called the bellboy and asked for a paper that had an accurate account of inquest. The surgeon had returned the skull had been shattered by a blow from a blunt object. It means the blow had come from behind. It also means that the son could be innocent, as he had been arguing with his father while facing him. Again, the mention of the word rat meant something in the murder. I hope Sherlock would come back. With some definite answer. I hope Sherlock would come back with some definite answer. But Sherlock returned empty-handed, finding young James equally perplexed by the turn of events. Sherlock was of the opinion of the boy was innocent and a simple at heart. But I said he had bad taste as he refused to marry Miss Turner, who was so pretty and sweet. Sherlock said that the boy was in love with Miss Turner, but he did not want to confess it. The reason is that he had fallen into a bad company about 2 years back. He had fallen into a trap of barmaid and married her at the registry office. No one knows about it, but the boy is upset that he cannot do what he wants to do the most. That is why he threw up his hands when he was arguing with his father. The boy also knew that he was not earning anything, and if his father wanted, he would throw him out of the house if he found about the barmaid. But out of all this, something good had come out. When barmaid read about the murder case in the paper, she wrote James she was going away, as she already had a husband in Bermuda dockyard, so there are no ties between them. Next morning we visited Mr. McCarthy's farm, where Sherlock requested to see the shoes that his father and son were wearing on that day of tragedy. From there, we left for Boscombe Pool. Once we reached there, Sherlock began looking for clues. His head was down and his lips burst as he examined the ground. There he found the footsteps of James, 3 sets of them. Means he had left and came back when he heard the cry, proving the statement was true. Sherlock suddenly found another footprint. Someone had tiptoed and that was the murderer. Sherlock found some other clues that had deduced that the killer was a tall man, left-handed, and a limp on his right leg, wore thick, solid shooting boots and a grey cloak, smoked Indian cigars, and carried blunt penknife with him. Having described the murderer, we returned to our room, and Sherlock asked me to sit down and talk to him. He told me that he had asked for a map of Victoria, the colony in which McCarthy had worked. His dying words were not rat, but Ballarat, a place in Victoria. McCarthy was trying to take the name of his murderer, someone from Ballarat. Sherlock explained. The man had an appointment at the pool, and it is clear it is not with his son as he always as he was away. He continued. The dying man called coo, which means an Australian cry. It is obvious that the man who was going to meet Mr. McCarthy was an Australian. I also found grey cloak belonging to the murderer. So now we know the murderer was a man from Ballarat, Australia. Ballarat, Australia, with a grey cloak. There was a knock on the door, and the arrival of Mr. Turner was announced. Sherlock asked him to meet us to avoid any scandal. The man who entered was a strange, impressive figure. He was limping, had a bowed shoulder, which gave the impression of weakness, but his strong features or long limbs impressed that he was also strong in a way. His face appeared dignified and made him seem powerful, but it was also ashen. That I was now convinced that he suffered from a deadly disease. Sherlock told him he knew everything about Mr. McCarthy. The old man sunk in his chair and buried his face in his hands. He cried if James would have found guilty in his trail, he would have spoken up. Mr. Turner told us that McCarthy was a cunning man. He had known the secret to his wealth, and he had been blackmailing the old man for favors. He wanted to marry their children so that all the wealth Mr. Turner had would become his. But Mr. Turner did not want this, as James was not the kind of lad that he wanted his daughter to marry. He had a shady past and no means of earning money. Moreover, Mr. Turner had enough of the blackmail, and Mr. Turner wanted to save his daughter from the evil plan of Mr. McCarthy, so he killed him. Mr. Turner was dying and had hardly a month left. Sherlock promised that he would not tell the truth to anyone unless he had to. If James was found not guilty by the jury, Sherlock would take this secret to the grave. Mr. Turner died a week before James' trial. The court did not find enough evidence to punish James. He was released with an acquitted. Both the kids were unaware of the black cloud, and their parents had cast upon their worlds, and they continued to live their lives in ignorance and bliss. So yeah, that's it for the chapter 4, part 3, and the last part of Boscombe Valley Mystery from the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So in the next video, we are going to continue with chapter 5, the 5 orange pips. So yeah, So that's it for this part. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.